Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm, picking up right where we left off. So we can actually rather trivially state a very important numeric result. Like I said, I don't really care about the numerics, but this one's really obvious and influential. We can say, what do we mean by the fundamental stability of two? Conceptually, we've explored that a lot. I mean, it's very clear as to, the different empirical manifestations of it. But numerically, what can we say, right? Well, 2 is the only number that satisfies n to the n equals n plus n. And so we've done a lot of providing physical limits for what can be represented by a number. Right? Numbers have to represent physical systems. We've gone over the universal progressions, but for what I would call, or what anyone should call, a local system, just meaning not the universal progressions. Right, you have all of your standard mathematics with numbers as is today. And so, right, if you look at n to the n plus equals n plus n, it's rather trivial to check that yourself. Again, 0 is not a number. More generally than that, numbers don't exist at all. But if you use your standard, and anytime you have like when you have 0 factorial equals 1, or the sum of all natural numbers equals negative 1 over 12, any of these like funky results, if it looks weird, it's really just because you have a bad definition of 0, 1, and 2, because they're not really numbers, and they're not what I would call relevant numbers, because those dynamics physically have stabilized. We've always lived in 3 dimensions, but it's not some sort of deep physical insight. The field with one element, that's some sort of intuition about just R1, but it's not some sort of deep insight. The deep insight we've already covered. And so whenever you're looking at equations, again, equations represent intuition. And so the deepness, so to speak, comes from realization, intuition, the light bulb moments. But you can look at that and you can trivially check that and say, well, 0, you could say 0 to the 0th power is 0. And again, I hate 0 even more than 1 and 2. But at least 1 and 2 are local numbers. 0 is not a number at all. Then you could say 0 to the n, right? Anything to 0 is 1. But even if you wanted to use the extended logic that we talked about, where really exponentiation is just a more rapid form of multiplication, you're saying you're timesing 0, but the base is 0, so it's nothing. But 0 times 0, you could try to say that equals 0. And then obviously 0 plus 0 does equal 0. So you could say 0, holds that identity, but it doesn't, right? Because you could divide either side by one of the terms, n to the nth or n plus n. It doesn't matter which one, and then you could have the stated fact that you can't divide by 0, right? And so if you move either of those sides over and just have n to the n divided by n plus n equals 1, you can't divide by 0. 0 is not a part of the domain. And so then you can do you can do n equals 1, right? N to the first power is 1 equals 1 plus 1 does not hold. 1 does not equal 2. Sorry, Terrence Howard. Or was that 1 times 1 equals 2? Sorry, messed that one up. But then you go to 2, right? 2 to itself, n to n, 2 to 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 plus 2 is 4. And so then if you check it for 3 to the third power, 3 times 3 times 3 is 9. Equals 3 plus 3, which equals 6, so it does not hold. So trivially, again, anything more than 2 grows rapidly, and so clearly the identity does not hold. So the fundamental stability of 2 numerically is 2 is the only number that satisfies n to the n equals n plus n. Materiality is materiality. So again, connecting, we said what's matter, influentiality matters. Influentiality is the natural definition of fluency. So just connecting all of these different things. But matter is material. What is materialization? Materialize, realize. I'm going to manifest. I'm going to materialize. I'm going to realize. I'm going to bring forth. I'm going to emerge. It is what it is. Now we can extend that and say an item is a thing, right? An item, right? And that's it with an EM at the end. So item is what item is. And so now we can start extending our general form of the solution again Remember, we did this about a month ago. We have to do this for whatever reason for these different parts, and it will all come together. But we're expanding it is what it is to item is what item is. And what we've done is we've connected an item is a thing. And so the most general word for an object with the fundamental syllable from vibration, ing, is now paired to our general form of solution, it. Item, thing. So itemization counts, right? If you get an itemized bill from the hospital, it lists out each individual thing. Itemization counts. Itemize, sensorize. An item is a thing, just said that. Sensorality laughs, right? My pool table is not going to laugh. Trying to separate sensorality with a C, separate sensorality with an S. And so laugh, laughter. Where does that F sound come from? L-A-U-G-H. What a weird way to spell that word. Right, there's this big saying in physics or the history of physics or philosophy, you can't get ought from is. Or you can't get is from ought. Well, correct, right? We can just assess that with our syllability. Does it have more letters? Right, it has the same amount of syllables. Is and ought both have one syllable, but is has less letters. But again, we've rigorously established that is this fundamental identity. It equates to the equality sign. Laughter, but is, what was I saying? Oh, ought. But right, you can get ought from laughter, right? So A-U-G-H-T, like kind of like a play on words. But again, it's not really a play on words. This is how language works. But when you say it out loud, it almost sounds like you're doing just like word play. But it's just how language develops. And so, but laughter, where does that PH sound come from? But physically that holds for our definition. My pool table's not going to start laughing. My tripod's not going to start laughing. So sentience, right? Laughter is proportional to sentience. But where does that PH come from? But laughterality is sensorality. Laughter is proportional to humor. Humorality is proportional to excitement. Sensorality determines excitementality. And so again, the more excitement somebody has, the more humor they're going to do. Whether they're excited because they're nervous, right? People make weird kind of awkward jokes sometimes when they're uncomfortable, or when there's like a lot of buzz in the air and everyone's really excited. So excitement is kind of our neutral state, you know, whether it's an electron going up an orbital or a human being getting excited. It's kind of our unifying sight, so right, that we have a base in there that we've already derived extensively around. Mentality, X as the prefix, just extending our derivation. A rhythm creates a zone. Somebody says, I'm in the zone, what are you talking about? Right? You're focused, right? So now we can connect the idea of focus from your attention span to a focus, the concentration point of the force vector of a planetary body in orbit, right? You have foci. It's a focus is what they call your points of concentration of an oval when something orbits something else. But again, point being is we've connected that logically. And so rhythm creates a zone. When you're in the zone, you're focused, but rhythm also creates a focus, like an orbital focus. Focus is proportional to rhythm, physically, just another physical proportionality. What is the relationship of focus and force? And very close linguistically, very well defined physically. Again, the letters changed by 1, 2, but they're very close. Focus as attention or focus as an orbit, just said that. Algorithm is the range of rhythm, right? So now in this series we're going from rhythm to algorithm, but that's from base to range. And now we've just proven that range degenerates into base, but it doesn't degenerate completely, right? In the same way, you'll live and you'll die, but you have some sort of impact, whether it's extremely trivial or slightly less really extremely trivial, right? No one has that much impact. But the point being is you existed, chronology happened, so you have some sort of impact, so you can't get back, right? Yesterday's never going to come again, right? Time passes this way, one way. And so you can't get back to zero, you can't get back yesterday. And so things progress whether you want them to or not. And so we've shown how, and that's in complete generality, is range degenerates into base. And so our base is vibration, base The natural opposite of degeneracy is emergency, right? But emergency comes first, right? You generate, you degenerate, and then you regenerate in that order. And they'll say that literally in physics, as it is right now today, there's 3 generations of matter. Once again, fundamental stability of 2, the relevant dynamic being dimensionality 3, 3 generations, 3 iterations of your shadow right now on this wall. And so now, but can we go from algorithm to rhythm, linguistically, with the letters, right? So that would be, right, that would be pretty crazy if I put the form of the solution backwards on purpose 3 years ago because I knew I was going to have to iterate this and then do it linguistically. That would be pretty cool. We'll get there. Or we won't, or maybe we will, who knows, but I've already done this, so place your bets, Johnny. But the point being is, again, generation, emergency. And we'll always say the word emergency like a hospital emergency, but emergency as in manifestation coming forth. And then you emerge, you degenerate. You generate, but logically consistently, the 3 words is generate, degenerate, regenerate. In that order, logically, physically, linguistically. What is coefficiency, right? We have coefficients. And so once again, we have another very awkward, unwieldy, cumbersome use of a prefix, co. We just kind of stuff it in there. There's another vowel. We just say efficiency, it's with efficiency, so it's coefficient. It's with this term on our equation. And so what is a coefficient? But it's clearly based on efficiency, right? That's our most poignant base axiom is efficiency. All physical systems are tending towards a state of maximum efficiency. Physically, that's momentum transfer, limiting entropy, and as a human level, it's the same thing, right? So it scales. It's independent. All physical law is independent of scale. Right, that's the word fractality. Fractals exist because that is true. Look at a picture of the atom. Look at a picture of a black hole. It's the same. It literally looks the same. And then you see those well-defined, discrete tension points in your camera trying to resolve those physical things. But to finish it up today, we can make a really important connection. Right, special, special. Right, we have that dichotomy in pronunciation, but specialty. Right. Specialties increase efficiency. Why do people specialize? Right? Why do they have a specialty? Again, using the correct word and the correct ontology. It's to increase efficiency. Right? It's more efficient to have a bunch of people that do mail delivery and process meat and do accounting than to have everyone do everything all at the same time. It's a consequence. It's an effect of tending towards efficiency. And so you have speciality, specialty, specialties, specialties, sorities. What is sority? Sority, soritality. Sensorality is soritality. So what we just did there is, again, look at our base now. Our base is it. So it is what it is. So now we've integrated sensorality into a form that is based on our general form of the solution. And so the same way in mathematics, in any sort of an equation or whatever you're solving, you have to get it into the right form, find the common denominator to reduce a fraction, factor out a variable of a polynomial, whatever. That is what we have to do with language. And we've done it. Soritality. It's based on it. Sor, sensor, it, ality. So it is the base. And now we have that. We've iterated to it's just a S, it kind of is just like, for whatever reason, just a random letter that just kind of goes away, or some sort of fundamental preposition of difference, right? This or that, right? Or is a fundamental preposition of difference. It is our base solution item. It is what it is. Sensoritality is what sensoritality is, but it's a form of sensorality. And so we just say there's all of these forms of these words that people never really use, or frankly never use, but you have to go through all of it to actually iterate it letter by letter. And at this point, the form of the solution being it is what it is obvious. The existence of sensorality intuitively, you get what I'm saying. But now we just have to get to that final iteration, and it has to have 3 words and that connecting word
will be, or two concepts will be connected by sorality or soaring or soritality or sorority or soaring or answering or something like that. But it'll be very clear. Again, I've already done with speciality. To force me to get to that point to be done is torture. Because like I said, I've already done this whole process, and when I completed it the first time, I didn't even get a pat on the back or a paycheck. So there's no step in which this is going to be clearly done in the terms of, well, there's no finality to it. We'll complete the proof of sensorality. We'll close up the entire proof. But for me to get paid or to get acknowledged, again, I have given up on acknowledgement to any extent. I have been begging simply for payment so I can comfortably do my research. That's really, truly it. But that is it for today with the research, and I will see you on the next one.